Hello, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube. Myself, Mark Carlaw, and Mr. Riley Finch. Riley, mate, we're about to lose Harrison Ashby. We've kind of known this has been coming for quite a while. I'm still really disappointed about this. This is one I'm really not comfortable with at all. Really feel that I don't know whether I'm angry at the player or angry at the club. I don't know. I just feel really let down overall. Especially, I think it's really down to the fact that he's looked really good for us, and I think a lot of fans were quite excited to see him develop at West Ham. So it's a real shame that he's departing, and it looks like he's going to Newcastle by the looks of it this January. What's your thoughts on it, mate? Where are you sitting at the moment on it all?
It seems like a bit of a strange transfer, to be honest. I think if the one position that's probably very much up for grabs at the moment is the right back slot. I mean, Soufal's very much out of form. Kerr's been good in that position, but obviously with the centre-back problems, I think we'd much rather have a genuine centre-back at centre-back because there's no one else who can really play that position. Then you've also got Johnson there. But then, I think he might go to the left-back slot, or, I mean, even he's not been in great form. So it seems like the perfect time for someone like Ashby to say to him, look, maybe we don't chuck him in against Arsenal because, that's a tough game for him, but just say, look, the right back slot is up for grabs. We're going to play in this game. If you impress, you impress. If you don't, you don't. You go to Newcastle, he's never going to get in that team over Trippier, ever. If Trippier is fresh, if Trippier is fit, he's never, ever going to get in that team over Trippier. So it just seems like a strange transfer to me. It almost seems like the Perkins going to Leeds.
Yeah.
You've got what, like, at the time you had one striker in Antonio. You're the backup striker at West Ham. Europa League, Conference League, more competitions. Yeah. You're going to Leeds where you've got Rodrigo, Bamford. You're going to struggle to get into that Leeds team, and it's shown because he's not got into the Leeds team. But I just think we're losing a player with really good ability. He's one of those right backs where he can really whip in a ball well. I think he's pretty good defensively. He's also young. He's got. I think a loan spell would be good for him as opposed to a straight out transfer. I mean, it doesn't rank very high in terms of the Dean Garner and then maybe the Oxford, depending on how you feel about that. I think like Dean Garner's up there, and then Elise was probably like there for me in and around Ashby. I think those two are kind of similar hurt for me, but I think for such an experienced manager, I have to say David Moyes' man management is shit.
Well, that's always been that is one of the big question marks, isn't it, over David Moyes? Unfortunately, it does seem to be lingering, and it's something that we're seeing more and more of. I mean, we talked enough about the Ben Rama situation and whatnot, and there's been various other players that have come in. Vlasic, another one that seems a bit strange. I don't understand it. I mean, like you said, you hit the nail on the head straight away. The right back position is a position that's up for grabs, as far as I'm concerned. Ben Johnson, the jury's out on him massively for me at the moment. I can't work him out whether he's good or not, or good enough. And I don't get me wrong, I do like Ben Johnson. I do like him, but especially as a lad, he seems really great. But I just don't know whether he's going to be able to solidify himself as our full-term right back. I just can't really see it. Soufal's been appallingly bad now for quite some time. Nowhere near the player that sort of arrived.
And he's on his way out potentially as well to buy Leverkusen.
Yeah. And he's been linked with a move, which I believe he's actually quite keen on. So that looks like he could be going. And like you say, and do I say it, the jury's out on Kira as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's been decent enough from what I've seen of him, but there's not. He's also made some really quite a few errors. So I don't think many fans are totally sold on him yet. So you're right. It's a strange one, and for a player that's worked hard to get through the West Ham academy, and we know the academies how tough they can be. Many players don't make it; they really don't. I mean, I think the percent. I mean, we had Kevin Keane at the last pre-match event, and he was talking about that. I mean, and then realistically, they honestly say if they can get like one or two out of like a year group, he said to make it into play for West Ham. He went, it's considered an incredibly good year. He said most players won't make it. And even if they go on to make championship players, they consider that an incredibly brilliant achievement. So the fact that Harrison Ashby has come onto the scene, played in the League Cup against Tottenham, he's been involved in the squads going to Europe, he's been involved. it's very sad that someone that's just making it to that level is obviously then let's consider maybe that one player, that year group that's going to make it as a Premier League footballer, now immediately wants to leave. It's very sad. And like you say, I mean, we can't just point the finger at the player and his, team. Who knows what we've done wrong? Have we dealt with it badly? Is the man management, like you say, been bad? Has it not been up there? I just don't know. Or is it the fact that Newcastle just offered more money and he's just decided, he's seen the pound note and thought, well, I'd rather do that. At the end of the day, it's not. I don't think it's not up there with something that's going to cripple the football club and we're never going to recover from. But it's just, I think it's quite sad, especially when you consider how much work's probably got into his development.
I mean, it must be annoying for the academy he hasn't really been given a chance. Like, fair enough. I'm not expecting every youth team player that looks decent to get into the squad because it just doesn't happen. I mean, look at the ability of Declan Rice to get into the first team, and when he first came in, Ben Johnson as well. Yes. I think that you could tell they were a cut above the rest, but the fact that these players don't get chances or they get half chances and then suddenly Moyes just has made his mind up on them in like 1 or 2 games of, you need at least 5 or 6 games in the side to really assess, how good someone is. I mean, yes, Moyes sees him in training week in, week out, but, we know from many players, some players just train terribly and then turn up in the big games.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's the point of an academy if it's just, and it's not like we're being offered stupid money for him, and realistically, we're also selling to what I would consider a rival, Newcastle, West Ham, they kind of seem, essentially even Brighton, to be honest, seem like the teams that are going to be fighting for that maybe last European spot, potentially breaking into Champions League, or especially Newcastle. Obviously, look how well they're doing at the moment. It just seems strange. I mean, I really think that there's something wrong with the academy at the moment, that we're either giving false promises or we're not allowing players to naturally go into the first team enough, or David Moyes is just way too harsh. I mean, I've always said it, that he's got a terrible, terrible man management, which is awful considering he's such an experienced manager. He's been around the block so many times. But look at all the, you hit it perfectly, mate. Look at all the spaffs he's had with players like Vlasic never really got a chance. Haller was not played in the right system. Ngakia left. Sonny Perkins has left. Elise's left. Baptiste's probably going to leave. Diangana, he was happy to sell. And now Ashby as well. I mean, his man management is just not good enough for me. I think he doesn't send enough people out on loan, or he does send them out on loan, and then when they return to the club, he just doesn't really know what to do with them. I mean, how many years has Nathan Trott been on loan at West Ham United? Like, how many? And this is at a time when we had, no disrespect, but David Martin, Darren Randolph, Roberto, and this man has been, hailed as like a really good keeper, and he's been on loan for about 4 or 5 years in a row. It's just his man management is so. It's probably the weakest part of his game, apart from his substitutions, in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and I do think there's no 2 ways about it. There is a lot of concern there, and I do think that is the case. I mean, and it may well be that's been a factor at play with Ashby. We don't know, do we? We don't. The fact is, we don't really know what's gone on. There's a big question mark over it. Even when we spoke to X about it, there is a lot of confusion over really what's gone on here. I think the club really wanted to keep Ashby. And I think they did try to attempt to keep him to make him stay. But I think his mind was made up for quite a long time. He wanted to go in the summer desperately, and he was apparently very close. If we'd got a right back in, he would have gone. That's how close it was, and it just because the only reason he wasn't sold. Eh?
It doesn't make any sense that the right back that we went out to go sign, he's not miles above Ashby. He can't be. He was some random.
I don't get it, mate. I think that the thing is, I just think that Ashby desperately wanted to leave. I think he really wanted to go. He's made his mind up, and that's been the factor. I think the club have tried to keep him, but it's just not worked. But like you say, my confusion over that is why? Why is a player so desperate to leave when you've just broken into a first team? Surely this is the time when you should be basking in this and thinking, I've made it. I'm playing for West Ham. I'm starting to play Premier League football. I'm starting to make appearances.
But he's not.
It's a strange time to walk away from a football club when you've just started to break into a first team. I do find it very odd. But the worrying trend for me is like when we talked about Sonny Perkins and people like that, it just seems to be a little bit of a trend here that we're getting players to a very good position. They're just breaking into the team. They're just starting to emerge. And as fans, we're starting to see them. And all of a sudden, they can't wait to get out. And it's like you're thinking, well, surely this is not the time this should be your sure as a footballer, as a young player. Surely this is your best time, your most exciting time. Thinking, I'm starting to make it. I'm starting to actually, immerse myself amongst the senior team. So yeah, it's just very disappointing, and my disappointment as well, like most fans, when I've seen him play, especially when he played against Tottenham, last season, he played really well, and he just I don't know, he epitomised a bit of West Ham. He got stuck in, and he's really giving. I think he had a clash with Højbjerg, and everyone was cheering, and it was like, oh, he's a proper West Ham lad, and now all of a sudden, he's off. So. But it is a shame, and it's up to him, obviously, and he obviously sees that he's got a bit better future at Newcastle. So what we're led to believe then is that the deal's going to happen in January. The club don't want to lose him on a free, so he will be going in the next few weeks. So yeah, it's a shame, mate. It's a big blow, and but best of luck to him. At the end of the day, it's his career, and if that's what he wants to do, then I'm sure he's got his reasons. But yeah, as a West Ham fan point of view, it's bitterly disappointing. Let's be honest, it's never nice to see an academy player walk away. Especially when they got like a big future, like we said, like Dean Garner was painful. All right, he might not have gone on to set the world alight, but it was certainly painful at the time considering where we were. And as I said, even Sonny Perkins I'm still quite disappointed about. But it is what it is, isn't it, mate? It's something we've just got to learn to live with.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not one that we regret too much, but it just seems like now we've got to go out in January and buy a right back, and unless we're looking at the likes of sort of a Wan-Bissaka or something like that, it just seems stupid to let someone who could potentially fix that problem go on a free. I mean, look at if we'd have dropped Ben Johnson instead of putting him in the first team, or Declan Rice, I mean who knows where they'd be today.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.